Recording in progress.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all so much for coming. Looking at our registration list, there was a lot of familiar names for me and a lot of unfamiliar names. But I want to welcome you all the same. I hope by the end of this that even the unfamiliar ones become more familiar and we have more opportunities to get to know each other. We're already 4 minutes, I don't want to say behind, but we're going to get there. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I don't want to take up too much of Jess and Drew's time because you're all there to hear them talk and not myself. But before we do start, my name's Dragana. I'm very happy that you're all here. We're all here to learn more about YEC, or the new version of YEC that Jess and Drew have been working tirelessly for the past year or so to get under wraps. And I'm really excited to share that with you. There is no script here except for me and my handy little notes that have my questions there for you to be able to get the most out of this session. Jess and Drew are going to answer my questions, and hopefully that answers some of your questions. And we're gonna have a lot of fun today, and I'm really excited to get started. Jess and Drew, again, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I think the table is yours.
I really don't know if you really want to do that, Dragana. When you kind of give us control, we kind of run a bit off. Can you reel us in a little bit first? And since you're the one who talks to everybody and answers the emails, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell everybody about you.
That is fair. And you are very right. I will try my best to reel you in to the best of my ability. Whether that works or not is yet to be seen, but you're right. I should introduce myself a little more fully. So my name's Dragana. I am the head of member experience here at YEC. Really, that's just a fancy way of saying that I oversee your membership before you're actually even a member here at YEC. So from your first point of contact, I'm going to be the first one you most likely talk to before your application even comes through. And then I can help you with the application process. And then once you're a member, hopefully from there, I just ensure that your experience is worth it, that you feel like YEC is a place that you want to be in and that you're getting the most out of it. And whether that's from sessions like this one that we have monthly, or getting connections, or just feeling comfortable enough to voice and ask or a request, that is me. That is your go-to. So I'm there from before the beginning and after the end, so to speak. So yeah, that's me. And I was hoping to have to not speak so much, but Drew, thank you for that. But I think that it's important for you to know about myself, and now we can get into Jessica and Drew. Again, my handy dandy notes, I hope you don't mind. I don't want to miss anything. I want you all to get out of this session with the most value. So let's jump into it. You ready?
Yep, let's go.
Let's go.
Awesome. So I've been kind of behind the scenes with the two of you for the last several months, so I know a lot of this stuff, but I don't think anybody else does. So I'm curious because I know that before YEC, you all have your own things going on, and even currently you have so many things going on, but YEC has become a bit of a focus. But before YEC, run us through what you're working on and how that connects to what you're working on now.
Well, I'll kick it off. Honestly, a lot, but YC has definitely changed that. I was just some dude playing another dude disguised as another dude. I definitely had my mask on, was acting out in front of everybody. Um, working on this has kind of reeled me in and allowed me to take a step back. But I'm an attorney. I have an automotive parts business. I do business liquidation and some tech consulting on the side. And then I work in some nonprofit work as well. But that's kind of what I do. That's what I was doing before this.
Awesome. Jessica, how about yourself?
So, I have been doing a whole lot of different things. I would summarize the work that I do in the umbrella of belonging. I do a lot of work in the government contracting sector, mainly providing services for the deaf and hard of hearing community. We do a lot of AI education and content within the deaf community. And I am heavily involved in a lot of other entrepreneur communities where I sit on boards. Um, YEC was one of those communities that I was a member of for many years, and so I've got my hands in a lot of things. Sometimes I feel like an octopus that is like kind of got my limbs everywhere doing all kinds of different things.
Yeah, so what I understood from all our past conversations and what I know is that you two actually met in YEC. So the version of YEC that most folks that are joining us might be aware of. I'd love to know at what point um, this conversation of you two or your meeting in YEC kind of led you into what we know as YEC that's coming up now.
So I can start. There's a bigger piece to how we got here, and I'll fast forward through that a little bit. When I took over YEC a couple of years ago, I remember a conversation really almost a year ago, a little over a year ago, where I was sharing with the YEC community about a training program that I had done that was teaching and training at the time business owners on how to utilize AI. And I had sent it out to the community. I got a message back from Drew, who I was already familiar with from our membership in YEC from several years back. He had a couple of questions about it. He ended up joining the training, and then we have stayed connected from that moment all the way to today. And it's been a fantastic experience.
Drew,
I,
how about yourself?
I
Do you
would
remember
put,
that like first conversation?
yeah. I had really been interested in AI, and I'd known of Jessica as well. And I'd been looking for some formal training. I felt like I was, one of the last ones to adopt it. And I took a chance. And then Jessica and I just went back and forth really a lot, and she wanted to hear my feedback as to how I was liking the training, and it just sort of spiraled out of control at that point, and the WhatsApp group going back and forth. And I mean, I knew of her prior. I don't remember our actual first conversation in YEC. But yeah, that's what I'm that's what I remember most.
Awesome. So I know you two knew of each other and you know each other from YEC prior, but something that I actually learned quite recently that I think is a little surprising. I didn't know this until you told me, is the fact that since you've been building this new version of YEC, you've actually never been in the same room together. So I'd love to know how that works, how that relationship is still building something that's meaningful, even if you're not right next to each other.
I think that um, connection doesn't have to happen in proximity. I think that connection is created when the boundaries of proximity are pushed. I think it's when we show up, when we're vulnerable, when we take the mask off, when we get to know what's under the person, right? And I think that in most conversations we show up initially with the mask on. We show up kind of with our guard. And I'm sure that that happened when Drew and I first started talking, right? I shared information about taking this AI training. He had a bunch of questions. I answered them. He took the training. And through the daily dialogue, we were able to create such a deep connection without being in person. Um, in a way that we held space for each other without even knowing that we needed it, right? Like, I have been able to have conversations with Drew about things that are happening in my other businesses that I'm not necessarily sharing with anybody else because it's lonely, right? There are only so many things that I'm going to share with other people. And part of the vulnerability was I've never met him in person. Like, I don't have anything to lose if I ask for his help or I ask for his opinion. And oh, by the way, he's an attorney. So let me get his opinion on this random situation that I'm dealing with over here. And taking that step and being vulnerable opened that door for him to hold space without him realizing it and without me realizing that I needed it. And I think that created the connection, right? I think that's what created the space to realize, oh shit, like I can show up like this and I can have a friend on the other side of this screen without actually having to meet him in person, and look at what we can create together, right? Like, to me, that feels like a little bit of magic.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. A little bit of magic. I think everyone needs a bit of magic, a bit of whimsy these days. It's being neglected, and I think we need to bring it back in whatever way possible. Um,
Totally.
but I am curious from both you and Drew, was there a point in time throughout these conversations that you realized, hey, yes, this is someone I can lean on, I can rely on. We have this sort of same thought process, and we've been going through the same things business wise, personally, whatever the case may be, that, hey, let's not just be, peers. How can we make YEC be what it needs to be together instead of separately?
Well, I mean, I'll start with saying Jessica became my counsel, which is kind of really what YEC is about. And that's where we kind of sort of vibe together. Like, this is something that really needs to happen. And we need to take YEC and transform it a little bit. We love the overall mission hasn't changed, but Jessica was there for me during like a big transition for business, and she was a sounding board. She was my counsel during it. And just one day she asked me a while back, though, like, how would you like to be involved in YEC more? And I'm like, whatever it takes, I love the group. I've always loved the group. It's been a huge asset to me. And then one day we set up a call. I was sitting on the couch and my girlfriend was next to me, and we just sort of spilled it and just laid out all the cards. And I said, okay, let's go. And Jessica was on board, and I said, well, how are we going to do this? And it's just went back and forth. And we decided, we did all the fun legal stuff because that's who I am. And now we're 14 days from launch. So it's kind of crazy.
And I will say, like, I, I think that we became each other's counsel again without knowing it. I think there's this underlying trust that happened just through conversation of, like, I'm going through this thing. Look at this. Hey, I'm going through this thing. Like, we became each other's counsel without realizing it. And I think through those conversations, what we realized was we met in YEC. We have so many lifelong friendships as a result of what YEC once was. There are so many other communities that are out there that I am a part of, and a lot of YEC members are a part of, and Drew is part of some other local communities. And what surprised me the most was the moment that I realized, well, my relationship and connection with Drew feels different than what I have in all of these other communities, right? And why is it so different? And why does this concept of a council feel so different? And I think that's the moment that we realized this is what we really need to create, right? This is the piece that YEC has been missing. There are so many communities out there. There's a type of community for any interest. Anyone can join any community. Something felt different about this relationship. Something felt different about this spark. And that's really what we wanted to go after, is creating this council for other people. If I was missing it, if Drew is missing it, how many other people are potentially missing this idea of a council? And that's kind of how we pivoted to where we are today.
I love that. And from working in the past several months with both you and Drew, it really is not that much of a surprise to me that you've come together and are building this, in my opinion, wonderful thing. I might be biased, but I don't think it's just that. Knowing both of you together and individually, and being a fly on the wall on the hundreds of conversations we've had so far. I know that this version of YEC isn't necessarily the first iteration that you two spoke about. And of course, I think life itself is messy. I think business can get a little skewed. And then you have so many paths you can take, and you have to choose one, right? You have to choose one that resonates with you and one that you think is going to resonate with most people, because that's what you're here for. I'd love to know, at one point, did you, from once you first started talking to this iteration of YEC, what changed? What did you have to stop and say, hey, this isn't the YEC that we're trying to build? And what are we looking at from the first version to what we're going to see in 2 weeks when the launch happens?
So I think we went forward originally very much on the idea that this was a very much all business thing. And we were building this based on the old framework. We had made some other changes, but it was very focused on business going forward. And as we went through, we just decided that it's not all business. And we both realized that we had come to a point in our life over the last couple of years where we were almost losing ourselves within our business, and we had taken a step back on our own. And this is what even makes Jessica and I vibe even better. We both had taken this upon ourselves to focus on ourselves and grow as a person beside our business. Obviously, weren't neglecting our business. We both need to grow, but we separated the person and the business. And that's what we transformed into, because it was it needed to happen. It was something that we hadn't seen. And at that point, I'm like, we've just been building this whole thing about business. It was an aha moment. I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what we need. We're in the same spot. It was one of Jessica's and my like brainstorm moments that just, boom, it clicked. So it
Yeah,
was,
and I also think too, I'm totally going to jump in and interrupt you, Drew. I also think like we originally were trying to bring back this this old community that we both were part of, that we met in. And what we realized was, again, there's a space and a place and a time for everything. And the old version of YEC, where we met, where we loved, where so many of our members loved, that space and place and time had passed. It was a season in all of our lives. And what we realized was we cannot recreate the past. We need to shift it, right? There's lots of new versions of YEC out there, and we need to do something different. If I'm part of so many other communities and realizing that I showed up differently in this relationship with Drew, then clearly there's something there. And Drew had the same experience with me. And I think that we got to a point where we were like, I don't even know that Drew knew what I did for the first 6 months of building this, right? Like I knew that Drew was an attorney, but like I didn't know what kind of attorney Drew was. Like we never really had the conversations of like, what do you do for work? In almost every community that I'm a part of, you meet someone and you're like, my name is Jessica, this is what I do. Or it's like, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? That's the first thing that comes out of your mouth because we're so ingrained to associate the person with the identity of who they are and what they do. And we wanted something different. I want people to get to know me for who I am. What I do for work is just an add on, right? I want to get to know Drew for who he is. I want to know what keeps him up at night. I want to know who he is as a person. And what he does for work is just a bonus.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I love that.
I'm gonna
Go
hop
ahead.
in again really quick because that was way more poetic than what I was saying, first of all. But I did do my research. I wouldn't be an attorney without doing my research before we first sat down and started talking about this. Um, I will say I put it aside because I've entered this point in my life where I've had bad business dealings going in looking business first and not looking at the person. And now I approach things in a much different way. And this is how I approached the YEC collaboration and went in and learned who Jessica was. And we really did set aside our business. And it was so much more about the person as we built this. And that led me to have so much more trust, such a better collaborative um, experience and be able to vibe with somebody than have this crazy mask on where I mean, I have a past with entertainment, like where I've got to sit out there and I have to act a specific way. It wasn't like that. It was very raw and mask off. So I think
I
that's
love
what,
the I love the fact that you keep going back to person first and mask off. And again, I was in that room at that table when we were talking about it. Um, do you remember at what point we were going through all of our ideas that one of us stopped or one of you stopped and said, wait a second, this is exactly what we said that we did not want to build. Like, this is not what we want from YEC, but we've accidentally built it regardless of the fact that that's not what we wanted. Do you remember at what point that happened and what was the straw that you were like, no, we have to start over because we were ready to launch a good month or two earlier. But then we said, this is not what we want to make YEC again. This is the total opposite. So when you say mask off, person first, that wasn't the first iteration of it, was it?
No, I think part of it is we started having conversations with some of the members, right? We started having conversations with some people that were past members that are no longer members, and we were trying to get them re-engaged. And I made the assumption that, well, they loved it before, let's just rebuild what we had before and then all the members will come back, right? I think through some of the honest conversations, putting ourselves out there vulnerably to the members, saying, hey, we took this thing over, we really want to do something here, this is the direction we're going in. And we got some really honest feedback from members, which I have to tell you, like, it's the best thing. I think in general people don't want to give hard feedback, but that is some of the best feedback that we've ever gotten, especially around this table, is tell us what you like and what you don't like. We want to create something that people want. We realized we were trying to recreate the old YEC, this old version that we originally fell in love with, like I was saying, and we realized it was not working. And it wasn't working because it felt like it was such draining energy for us to put it out there. What we realized in some of the conversations was, man, I just had a 60-minute or a 90-minute call with Drew and Dragana. This gave me so much energy. I want to have more conversations like this with the rest of the members. And so for me, I just remember a point being like, all right, I need to be real for a moment with myself and take my own mask off and be like, I don't want to create this type of community. I'm already in these other communities. I want to create something that feels more real. I want to create something that I am experiencing. And I think also, like, COVID shifted a lot for people in relationship, in community, and we're still kind of feeling the effects of it. And it took me a long time to realize the type of community that I was looking for, the type of people I wanted to surround myself with. Um, because again, like I was saying, the goalpost, this idea that the goalpost keeps moving, right, and we keep moving it, and so it keeps moving, um, didn't allow for this person first mindset in my head. It was like I was chasing something that existed before, or some version of something in my head. And the moment that I was willing to just stop and take my mask off and be like, great, I'm right here. How do we meet right here in this moment? For me is the transition from what we were building to what we are building.
I think that we grew up a little bit during this because we were trying to almost relive the heyday of YEC. And we realized that YEC needed to grow up, and we had already taken the path of growing ourselves. So we sort of merged the two together and came up with this real idea of counsel and being open and taking the mask off, being vulnerable, realizing that when we sat here and we didn't have that performance face going, and how we had to, the imposter syndrome. That's all law school is. You come out of that and you're like, let's go. Um, but once we were able to feel like this comfortable feeling, it just flowed. And then I talked to past members, I talked to other people in different communities, and I started talking about this, like how, we were feeling, and we felt like this was missing. And I started getting feedback about, like, I'm feeling the same way and I'm looking for a group. I don't know if I want to go to this one. I don't know what to go if I want to go to that one. But what you're building sounds exactly like what I need. Tell me more.
I love that. And I have a connecting question, but before I get into that, because it's going to be a little deeper, I do want to ask, without ruffling too many feathers between the two of you, do you remember who decided that it should be person first? Or are we going to say that it came as a mutual decision?
I don't know. I would like to think that it's an organic conversation between all of us.
I think it might have been Jessica. She righted the ship there a little bit.
I mean, if we're really curious, we do have the recordings. We can go back and check. So I'm glad that was very diplomatic. I was not expecting it to be that diplomatic.
I may have deleted those recordings.
Oh, that's very cavalier. All right, so I know you've touched base on this before, but I do want folks that are either just coming on now or still a little up in the air, because YEC has been around for 15 or so years, right? So Jessica, you didn't start it. I do want to know what the main difference is now as you kind of took it over and then brought Drew in as well. What did that transition look like, and what does that mean going forward?
Yeah, so it's a 15-year organization. It has been around for a while. It has had its fair share of ups and downs. It was a community of really amazing people when it first started. And Scott and Ryan, the two guys that started it, had a fantastic run with it. I was a member, I joined um, about 10 years ago. So maybe 5 years into the organization, I joined and met a bunch of amazing people and still have friends today from YEC. And they had sold YEC at some moment in time to a group of people that were not YEC members. And when I found out about it, the group of the group of people that had purchased it at the time asked me to come and support them and join on their team because they realized that there was a really big disconnection between them. They had not been members before, and so they didn't really understand the organization. And I didn't want the organization to fold. It really carried me through a lot of different times, and I've met a lot of great people. And I did. I worked with them for a little bit, and then I realized that my goal and my vision for what I wanted for YEC was so very different than theirs. And after lots of conversation, and honestly, after the organization was kind of sitting there, I had tried over time to kind of revive it, and it really wasn't going anywhere. And the last attempt was to have a conversation with them. I bought them out and decided that I was going to do this and really kind of put some effort behind rebuilding and relaunching YEC. What I realized in that period was I realized what my strengths were. I realized what I brought to the table. I also realized that what I wanted to create in YEC was a community. And in that community, what it meant for me was I didn't want to do this alone. I wanted to do this with peers. I wanted to do this with other people that not only brought the best out in me, but that I could bring the best out in them. And those seeds started planting very early on in my conversations with Drew when I was running it alone. And in that time, Dragana, you were there when it was just you and I. And I remember the very first time casually, Drew and I were talking, and we were talking about YEC. And I said, hey, I would love for you to come in and help. And, he had already explained the story earlier. He was totally on board. And the moment I realized I didn't want to do it alone was the moment that I realized I bring a certain skill set to the table. I need someone who complements that skill set. I also need to create a little bit of trust in this relationship and realized that if I want to grow a community, I need to do this in community with other people. Right. And so watching the evolution of YEC over time has been really great. And again, I think what we are creating today is so very different than what it was. And we've taken so much time to get it to where we are today. And I'm so excited to kind of launch it. I know, we've been talking a little bit around it. But I think it's really important to understand kind of the history, how we got here, who Drew and I are, again, because the organization itself, what we want to create, we also want to be the mirror of. And part of that is people first, learn who we are, know why we're doing what we do. It will really create that deeper connection within this organization and with the other members that are here with us today.
I love that. I think it's really important for folks to know that obviously this isn't a new organization. It's been around for well over a decade. But just because of what it was prior does not mean it's what it has to keep on being. And maybe I'm biased, but I think it's hopefully going to be bigger and better. Obviously in different ways, and it all depends on what the community actually needs. It was what it was because that's what the community at the time needed. At this point in time, I think folks that have been members prior are a little bit older now, a little more advanced. The market has changed. So many things have changed. And while we're on that topic, YEC as a name has not changed. It's still called Young Entrepreneur Council. But from all of our talks, I know that young isn't necessarily an age that you're trying to go to. I want to know a little bit more of what you mean by young, and then we can go into the whole name. So, Young Entrepreneur Council, I want you to break it down for us bit by bit and make us understand what is young, what is a council.
So, yeah, I just raised my hand because definitely want to talk about this. And that's kind of our vibe. But so, like I said, YC grew up. We grew up. There was a point, where I think that's where part of where YC lost itself was we grew up, we grew as people, we grew as businesses. Our businesses were at different levels than our people were starting families, people, got married. And young might not have sat well with people at that point, and they didn't think that they had a place here, even though they did have a place still. So I didn't really want to change the name, and I know Jessica didn't either. I think it kind of lost the identity, but I think young isn't an age thing. It could be a stage thing where you are within your business, where you are as a person growing in your business. We do want people within YEC to have this track record, not be so much a startup and have already walked the walk, talked the talk. That's how you become somebody's counsel. But with that being said, young can mean so much more when you're at that point. Young can have to do with your how your brain works. If it's still malleable, you could be 58 and be in YEC and be totally cool because you're not on this, flat plane. You haven't plateaued. You're still willing to learn. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So if you have that mindset of learning still and being young at heart, at mind, as far as being open to, maybe that 25-year-old guy teaching you about AI and you're, 50, that's kind of how the name changed. Or not, the name didn't change, but how the definition of young changed.
Yeah, I agree. Jessica, is there anything that you wanted to add there? I know from our talks, we've talked plenty about, again, like Drew said, it's not just about age. You can be young at heart, you can be young at mind. At this point, you just have to keep up with AI and you feel like you're like a 21-year-old. Is there anything else you can kind of connect that with?
Yeah, I think we are talking about young as in stage, not young as an age, right? There are so many stages that we go through in business. There are stages that we go through in life. I think that in today's world, we all want to stay as young as we can, right? Longevity is out there, and starting new businesses is fun and sexy. And that requires you to be in this youthful stage in general as you start a new business or as you all of a sudden want to 10x your business. And it requires you to be in a stage where you're constantly learning and things are new and you're relying on other people. I think that's what this is all about. There are, and we also know that in today's world, there are more people that are older in age starting businesses than there were years ago. And that has to do with access and information and growth and tools and, all kinds of things. And I think for us, that means we are talking about young as in stage, not as an age. And that's really important to us because I think, like Drew said, we can learn from anyone. People that have less experience, people that have more experience, people from different generations, and we can teach the same. So I think this mentee mentor relationship is really important both ways, and this idea of young as an age for us is just something that we kind of blew up internally.
Love that. I love the idea of mentee mentor because I think that at the end of the day, nobody started and expanded only by themselves. And I'm sure there are a few people that have, and kudos to them. But I do think that, having somebody there on your wing helping you out makes a huge difference. And I think that that's kind of what YEC is aiming to do here. And then we touched base a bit about what the young means. I'd love to know your take on, and again, I know the name hasn't changed, but the definition has, as Drew has mentioned, the council part of YEC. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for current members or members that are looking to join?
Yeah, so again, I think that when we set out to redefine YEC, for us, a council, one of the things we realized was it is lonely at the top, right? It is lonely. We feel like we're in isolation as entrepreneurs. We all know that. We all understand that. When we surround ourselves with people, we feel so much more seen. We feel heard. We feel like we've got this group of people that we can bounce ideas off of, right? Like they're like a sounding board. What we wanted in YEC was we really wanted a council. Think of them as a board of directors. Think of them as a group of people who can provide perspective for you that sometimes you can't see when you're kind of in the thick of it. And so the idea of this council, this board of directors, is that we have this mentee mentor relationship. We want to have a group of people that have more experience than you and less experience than you in a variety of things. It could just be industry related, it could just be years of experience, it could be that someone has owned and operated a $25 million business and they've never had to go out and raise capital. And you have somebody that has a $4 million business, but they've gone out and raised capital. And we want to be able to pair people up together that can provide this almost like board of directors where you're each other's sounding board, just kind of like what Drew and I were for each other without even realizing it. And that is going to be the biggest kind of special sauce within YEC, is that this curated group, this curated council, where you have people to reach out to that have different perspective than you, that can really really have some substance and let all of that kind of land in a way that it has not landed before within YEC. And that's really what we're aiming to create.
I would say it's really even more than just, a board of directors. It's really like a board of directors for your life almost, because as much as we've talked about being real and removing the mask and the imposter syndrome, if you're not going to be real and take the mask off and reveal and feel comfortable, you're not going to see the full benefit from what YEC is at this point. And as we've built it and as what Jessica and I found in each other, having that mask off, we were able to become each other's counsel, but it was like we decided we wanted to put this in place for other people so we could line up a board where for the of a council for them so they felt comfortable, because I know how I felt. It's the most lonely job in the world being an entrepreneur. You People don't get what you're going through, and to find people you can actually talk to and be real with is what allowed me to level up so much. I would say I've experienced more growth in all of my ventures since I, started talking to Jessica and having her as counsel, just because it gave me a different kind of energy where I didn't have to have that mask on and had a counsel and didn't feel as lonely, because you're like, oh, I'm looking down, but really I'm here with somebody else that's actually living the same exact thing that I am. So,
I love the fact that we're talking about um, learning, and I'm a big believer that you can learn from somebody that has 20 million net worth less than you and is 25 years younger than you, and vice versa. I think that it takes a certain amount of accountability and vulnerability to tell yourself that you still have things to learn, and not just from people that are, higher in net worth or age or whatever the case may be. I mean, that might have been the case, 50, 60, 100 years ago, but I don't think that's the case now. And I love that there is no age requirement anymore, because again, I think that we can all learn from each other no matter what age or stage we're on at. And then while we're being a little bit vulnerable, you keep touching base on removing the mask and the suit, and how, as a founder, you always have a need to be on. Um, I want to know, at what point did you have to put on that mask? And at what point did you have somebody that you were comfortable enough with to say, hey, I don't need to wear this anymore. Like, I have somebody in my corner that I don't have to pretend with. Drew or Jess, whoever wants to be a little bit more vulnerable first. I don't
okay,
want to
I'll
pressure
I'll do it.
you.
I mean, within this relationship, business wise, I think it was pretty much instantaneous that we just sort of both felt comfortable and approached it in a different way. And I don't know if that was just where we both were in life and understanding that. But like I've said, I've taken that approach now where I don't want to be acting. I don't want to have that suit and tie. I want to be able to sit there. Okay, I'm in my shorts, and my t-shirt, and have a meeting. And Jessica and I sort of vibe that way immediately. And now I approach business a little bit of a different way. There's times where you have to be professional. Yeah. But every single deal that I've approached since talking about YEC and getting involved now at this stage, I've approached in a much more personal, maskless way. And it has done wonders for confidence, wonders for collaboration and energy. Wearing that mask is exhausting. Being on and having to, go out to that network meeting, shake hands, small talk. It's the worst. That's
Yeah, I
exhausting.
think it's exhausting. Sometimes we do it without realizing it. I think for me, that was a lot of the case. I wore a mask for many, many years because I thought I was supposed to. I thought I was supposed to walk into a room and act a certain way and be a certain way. And inside of all of these entrepreneur communities, I needed to have my mask on to show everyone that I was doing great. And I needed to keep up with everybody else. And so when everybody else was sharing a win, I would share wins. And that was my way of kind of having this mask on and keeping my guard up. And again, a lot of it was because the identities of people were their business. And if my business wasn't doing well, then I felt like I wasn't doing well and I wasn't able to vulnerably share that. I remember in conversations with Drew early on as we were kind of building this. Um, at the time, I was going through a lawsuit in one of my other companies, and it was so heavy on my heart, and there was so little people that I could have this conversation with. And I was like, you know what do I have to lose? I am going to ask him. Again, he's an attorney. He has got so much skill and experience. Look, I introduced him to this AI training, and I feel like now he's like the wizard of the wizards, and I have been doing it a year longer, and I'm like, he's still my go-to person for everything. and I needed help, like connecting this thing and having, AI go through all my emails and find all this stuff for this lawsuit. And I just remember asking him and was like, look, I have this issue. How do I do it? And he was like, just give me access to all your umpteen thousand emails. And I was like, oh my God, this is so personal. Okay. And I did it. And I think, like, for me, the outcome, the result of taking down the mask paid off in ways that I could never imagine, right? And I think some of that is what it is. It's like trusting yourself, learning to trust the other person, but showing up and taking your mask off, I think, is huge. And we don't do that enough as entrepreneurs. We care so much about the appearance and what we're doing and how we look and how we show up and celebrating those wins, that we don't create enough spaces to hold space for each other when somebody is going through something. And it's not even like they're going through something. It's like everybody has these moments of shame and guilt, and they're very personal, right? What is maybe a dark shadow for me is not for Drew at all, and some of it's just life experience in general. And I think creating those spaces really brings the connection together. It actually allows the opportunity to celebrate those wins in a whole different way. Like, for me, I was able to celebrate the moment that, like, Drew just built this AI thing for me for this thing, this lawsuit I was going through, and I was stressing about it for weeks. And in a matter of moments, by just like saying the thing that I was so embarrassed to say out loud, that I was going through a lawsuit, to, by the way, somebody that I have never met who really quickly became my counsel, in a matter of moments, I was like, oh my God, now I understand what they're asking. I know where I can find everything. Like, this just made me feel 10 times better. That's the council. Like, that's what we are trying to create. That's the mask that we want to. It's almost like a learning to unlearn.
That's, I would say, a core part of what YEC is. It's the asks and the gives, the willingness. If you're not willing to give and you're not comfortable enough to ask, this isn't really the place for you, because you need to
Yeah.
be that comfortable. And I'm going to stop right there, because I have to say that I did not give Jessica legal advice. I consulted her in an AI way. There was no attorney client relationship established.
Yes.
That's
But
perfect. There's so much more I want to go through. We don't have enough time. I want to be able to give the floor to a couple more questions from folks. I'm sure that have a few of them, or a few that came in. But before I open the floor to them, I want to ask you both, now that we've kind of gone through what YEC was and what we want YEC to be, I'm curious, and I'm sure everyone else is as well, who actually earns a seat and should be part of YEC? Jessica, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, you know what? I think the people that want to be here, the people that are operators, right? They have built something. They are still in it. There are real stakes on the line, right? I want to see people that are still growing. I want to see people that are still curious. I want to see people that are reaching for something and also want to teach others how to reach for that same thing. I I don't want YEC to be for everybody. We don't want to be for everybody. But what we do want is, we want people that are here. They have recognized the mountains that they've had to climb to get to where they are. We want to have those people be willing to show their mask, take their mask off, and show themselves who they really are. Leave it on the line. We want people that are willing to be part of a council for others and that are willing to ask for help when they need it. We want people to put in as much as they want to get out of it, right? And I think that, at a bare minimum, those are the people that we're looking for, that feel the isolation, that want to be part of something that will carry them to a higher level. and to push each other to get to what they want and do what it takes to be there.
I know that we've spent a lot of time. We know what it feels to want to be and how we are very emotionally charged when it comes to talking about and defining who should be and who should be in here and who shouldn't. And we took a lot of time to try to write and figure out what the qualifications should be. And that was very hard. It it's not a checklist that you have to check every single box. It's a per person interview process to get into YEC. Um, we don't actively, tell you what we're looking for. It's about us feeling you out, knowing what you've done, and you answering a few questions. But what I really feel that YEC and who it's for is it's if you want a seat at the table, you have to be an operator who's actually built something and are still deep within it. There's real stakes. You've hired and you fired. These decisions that you can't hand to somebody else, you have to live with those and take them home sometimes at night. And you've been buried by something, the work, and you need a little bit of help and you can't find it elsewhere. That's really the floor. And the other part of this is it's a little bit quieter at the end of the day. You're still willing to grow. You're still curious. You're not coasting for the next 5 years until you can, go sit on the beach. Um, you want to climb higher. There's still adventure out there. And you understand without being told that to get what you want out of this table, you need to give something as well. So we're not for everybody. We're not trying to be. If you've outgrown the people around you, it might be your time to try to pull up a seat here.
Awesome. I love that. And I think we can keep talking for another 2 hours and still not
Open the floor for
say everything you want to
questions.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
So
talk about this forever.
I wanna open it up to a couple questions, one or two, and then I think we can do another Q&A sometime in the future. I don't want to take up too much of anybody's time. So like Alexa here has done, if you do have a question, I'd love for you in your Zoom portal to raise your hand. And if you're comfortable, I'd love for you to turn your camera on and your mic on, and you'll join us here for you to ask your question. If you're not comfortable turning your camera on, that's totally fine. But yeah, Alexa, let's start with you. Give me 1 sec, allow you to talk. And I can't see your camera. You can go ahead.
Okay, so I guess you both have really, or all three of you have alluded to the fact that you really get out of this what you put into it. And as entrepreneurs, everybody seems to have this constant imbalance of opportunity and bandwidth, right? So what do you feel is the realistic amount of time needed to commit to YEC where you really get true value out of it, right?
That's a great question. Thank you, Alexa. So Jess and Drew, what do you think what is the amount of time that someone that wants to commit to what YEC should commit in order to get any sort of value from it?
So I would say that there's always committing time is a balance, right, for entrepreneurs in general. I think to get full value out of the organization, I would say that you're looking at about 5 to 8 hours a month, right? Some months it's going to be more, some months it's going to be less. I think some of that is going to come out of building this council, spending time with the council, getting to know the council, having dinners in different locations, meeting other members. Some of it's going to be through sessions that we have that we're providing online. Um, Honestly, I think it is going to depend on what you want out of it. people come into communities and they want different things at different times. And so I think part of it is if you are coming into YEC and you're looking to strengthen relationships and create connection and build this council around you, it's going to take time to do that, right? Be available for the council, be there to support each other, show up to sessions and meetings, and it's probably between 5 and 8 hours. And that can be plus or minus time on either side.
I'll say, just given how the world is now and how technology is, we're so connected. And that's kind of great here because we're able to do stuff on our own time. So you might not, as a member, you might be busy when this session is going on. You could watch the replay later. You could be inside of our group chat asking a question. You could be on our portal, posting something, looking for advice. We have the tools now to make it easier to take on and join an organization and get as much as you can out of it and maximize what you get out of it, because we have the luxury of technology like we do. So I would agree 5 to 8 hours a month, you would probably get the best, benefit out of YEC, but you can go above and beyond and get even more. I mean, we have, curated dinners like in our different chapters, and we're currently building out a bunch of other chapters and have interest in multiple different cities. So that's one of the benefits in the real world, things that you can actually get. And if you put more time in, sit down, have a dinner with people, be vulnerable in your own city without having to, go fly to a conference.
I mean, what I'm hearing is that at the end of the day is you get out of YEC how much you put into it. And I think that goes for anything in your life. How much effort you put into it is most likely what you're going to get out of it. Thank you again, Alexa, for that great question, and Drew and Jessica for answering it. And then we've gone a little bit over time. That's fine. This is going to be recorded and shared with folks that have either left or want to watch another time. Just to close this off, and we'll do another Q&A probably sometime soon. If I loved everything that I've heard about YEC, or if I want to learn more about YEC, how do I go about applying, and what's to come in the next 2 weeks? What can I expect? Drew, Jess?
You can go straight to our website, yec.co, and sign up, and you'll be notified when we open up on the 14th at noon when we launch.
Which we're so excited about.
Yeah, it's been a marathon. It's been a marathon, yeah. And I don't want to discount, the time that we've put into this and what, we're supposed to be getting out of this and what people get out of it. I kind of want to touch on it, that it's not just the people that you need to have some other. YC was not meant to be the Amex Platinum card that you get your perks. That's been my going saying at this point. But within an organization, we want to give and have our members give and collaborate with each other. So current members have provided certain benefits to members, and we can get into that once you guys are interviewed and stuff like that. But as YEC is a organization, we offer opportunities for publishing, curated questions, member spotlights. We're going to put you on that pedestal and get you out there. We have a huge following via social media. I'll let everybody in on a little secret. We're launching a podcast. It may have a cool name that kind of plays into the whole table thing. I'm a little branding nerd here, but it's learning from everybody. So we wanted the sessions and the operators, people, if people within YEC to step up and be like, hey, I want to teach this. We'll bring other people in, but you're comfortable around these people. It's a directory of people that you can rely on and lean on, and the in-person tables where you could have dinner with people once a month in your city. I mean, it's what members make of it. And it really isn't our group, it's the members group. So if a member has an idea, text us, shoot us a call. We're going to sit down with you and actually say, let's hear it. If it's beneficial to everybody, we're going to do it, and we're going to figure out a way to do it and incorporate it. And I've learned that so much. It's listening to everybody and what they're missing, and not being this cookie cutter organization like we go into, every month and sign a check over to, so.
Yeah, so I think it's important to a couple things there. After your application, I don't want to call it an interview. It's going to be a chat. So we're going to hop on a call. You're kind of talking to us the same way we're trying to evaluate you. So do you want to be part of YEC, right? It's not just about, are you a fit for YEC yet? It's about, does this align with your goals, your values, right? So as we've mentioned before, YEC is not a business council. It's a council, sure, but it's not just about business. Sure, you're gonna have peers that have been where you are or that are getting to where you are business-wise, but we want you to not just focus on the business. It's so easy to get swallowed up and drowned in having that mask on and always being on for your business, that you sometimes forget about some things that usually do matter more, whether that's your personal relationships or your health. And I think after hearing Drew and Jess and the past several months, I think it's important to stop and realize that there are some things that may trump, your ROI or whatever the case may be. And I think it's easy to forget that. And I think that we need to surround ourselves with people that may have at some point forgotten that as well, but they're trying to remember that and put that sort of in their to-do list, whether it's at the top or the bottom, in the middle. I think that's important to do. So we've talked about person comes first, growing with the business, alongside it, not letting it overtake your life. Don't let it swallow you, and that it's not a business council. And at the end of the day, it's about you deciding who you want to surround yourself with. We can surround ourselves with anyone we choose to, but you have to think about where you're going and what's important to you. And I think that Drew and Jessica are building something very special, and I'd love to see a lot of you witness that and be part of that, and growing together and learning from each other. And I think we've gone a bit over time, but I think it's more important that we get the message across and that you understand. And we're always open for any more questions. I'm sure there's going to be another Q&A because there's a bunch of questions that I did not get a chance to ask, because as Drew said at the beginning, they will talk and talk, and talk they did. But I'm sure that you are going to leave the session understanding a bit more about who they are, what YEC is looking to be, and maybe you see yourself wanting to be part of that journey. So again, I'm always available for any questions at dragana@yec.co. We will send emails after this with a bit of a recap. And if you missed part of this or you're curious to listen to it again, there will be a recording available as well. So I want to thank you all for joining us wherever you're coming from. And I want to thank Drew and Jessica for sharing their wisdom and their belief in what YC is going to be.
Yeah,
So,
I can't
thank you
wait to
all.
see everybody at the table soon.
I can't wait. This has just been such a long journey, and I like building things, and this has been one of my favorite things to build.
Yeah, I've had a great time, kind of hopping along for the ride. You've both been, I've learned a lot, and I've laughed a lot, and I think there's a lot more to learn for everybody that wants to be involved. So thank you all again. And this is, like Drew mentioned, he mentioned it earlier than we planned, but this is not the first or last time we're going to be connecting like this. And stay tuned for that podcast that he mentioned earlier. Thank you all for hopping on,
Bye,
and
guys.
we'll chat soon.